Have a great session today by Lavanya Srinivas. But before that, I just want to introduce our moderator for the evening. That is Rajalakshmi. Rajalakshmi has an overall experience. She's a committee member of WICCI, first of all. And she has an overall experience of 14 years in diverse fields such as IT support, entrepreneurship, digital marketing, branding, and banking. She is present assistant VP at a multinational bank. So Raji, I'm going to hand over the reins to you for this evening. I hope you will have a great moderating session with Lavanya, who is a great storyteller. Yeah, welcome everybody.
Thank you, Rajshri. Thank you so much. That was a wonderful introduction. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today. As told, this is Rajalakshmi here from Tamilnadu Entrepreneurship Council. It is so wonderful to see you all on a Saturday evening. I should thank you all for that. And it's a great honor once again for me to welcome you all for the WICCI Startup Session Series by Lavanya. Before handing over the session to Lavanya, I would like to introduce about our guest. She's a techie, she's a trainer and a transformation coach. Not only that, I have a huge list to read, so please hold on. She's an expert in storytelling and narrative and the narratives at various institutes at Chennai. She's the founder of Katha Kameshu, a professional development center for creative educators, story coaches, teachers, and trainers. She is the founder and managing trustee of Katha Kshetra Trust. Not only that, she's been a proud member of EWIT and TIE Women. She has more than 2 decades of experience in mentoring and grooming young and emerging storypreneurs across India. So join with me to welcome Lavanya Srinivas. Over to you, Lavanya.
Raji, before Lavanya starts, I would also like to mention that today happens to be her birthday. So happy birthday, Lavanya.
Many more happy returns of the day, Lavanya.
More happy returns of the day. It is so awesome that this happened on your birthday. So we would love to take this session forward with you. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Raji. And thank you, Raji Lakshmi, for introducing me with those generous words. And thank you, Abhirami.
Yeah.
And on this special day, I think it is destined to happen this way. You know, it's a very special day for me, and I'm very happy to be in the midst of each one of you. And at the outset, let me wish Raji and Abhirami a roaring time and a great entrepreneurship journey. You're trying to help everybody here. So God bless you all. Shall we start the session?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So once upon a time, there lived a rich businessman. He was extremely rich and successful. He loved his wife immensely. That night, he was preoccupied with his business deal that was going to happen the next day. He rushed to work in the morning with stars in his eyes, hoping to strike the deal. But alas, he forgot that it was his wedding anniversary. Somewhere along the way, he managed to grab some time and rush to the market. He went to the most beautiful and expensive boutique in the city and looked at all the saris for her. Nothing was as precious or as beautiful as his wife. He went to the most expensive jewelry shop in the market. He looked at all the jewels. Nothing was as beautiful or as precious as his wife. He went to the most expensive artifacts shop in the market. Not a single piece was as beautiful or as precious as his wife. Disappointed, he was walking down to the car, but something caught his attention. Wait a minute. There was this beautiful blue, red, green, yellow, orange, and gold-colored bird. It was making such beautiful sounds. He could not help turning back and going there. He stopped at the shop and asked for the price. The bird stole his heart. He asked for the price and the shopkeeper quoted a bomb. He was surprised and shocked. But he said no, anything for his precious and beautiful wife. He bought it. Of course, being a businessman, he could not help asking, why is it so expensive? And the shopkeeper said, sir, this bird can speak in 7 languages. You can test. Very, very happy with it. He took the bird, the colorful, the 7 language bird, and rushed back, hoping to give it to his wife. Along the way, he got a call. He rushed to the meeting. He had to give it to his wife, so he called his assistant and sent it home. And he continued the meeting, and it was total success. He struck the $1 million business. When he went back home in the night, he expected his wife to welcome him with happiness and excitement for that lovely gift. Ding dong. As he rang the bell, he saw his wife opening the door and turning the face and walking away. He was surprised. He said, darling, and she just did not reply. She walked away. And then he said, honey, you know, I sent. She banged the door and went into the bedroom. He walked behind her, opened the door and asked, darling, I sent you a beautiful bird. Sorry, but did you not receive it? She said, of course. So where is it? There on the table, she said. Ah! He said, oh my God, what did you do with it? And she quickly realized what a blunder she made. And she apologized. I'm really sorry. He said, oh my God, this beautiful bird could speak in 7 languages, darling. It was my gift to you. She felt worse, but she said, wait a minute. Then why did that bird not answer even in a single language when I held it to prepare this, your favorite dish? My dear friends, such is the power of emotion and such is the power of communication. Saying the right thing at the right time. I'm sure you will all agree with me. But you may also ask me, how is it relevant today about the story? Don't forget, we are talking about the power of stories. And with a storyteller here like me, what else do you expect but a story? So thank you very much for all of you to have joined me here. You might be executives, you might be entrepreneurs, you might be business people, you might be most precious housewives and mothers and women, leaders as well. Hearty welcome to you all. We are all in the same place and same emotions. So let us look at today's topic, EQ matters. I hope you have all understood the pun behind it. And I'm sure, yes, EQ matters and wellness matters. So wellness matters is nothing but things that are pertaining to wellness. And yes, wellness matters. Yes, I can see those question mark faces here. What is wellness in the first place? Yes, wellness is not the opposite of sickness. Yes, it is being healthy, but it is much more than that. Let's see what the experts say about wellness, because we need to first deal with wellness to know about emotional intelligence, entrepreneurship, and the power of stories. So with all my experience, all these years, I have managed to realize that there are 8 dimensions to wellness. We keep hearing wellness centers, but more importantly, we must look at what is wellness actually. It is the opposite of sickness, yes, and illness, but also something more than that. That is where we are looking at the dimensions of it is emotional wellness, it is environmental wellness, It is vocational wellness. It is physical wellness. It is financial wellness. It is social wellness. And finally, last but not the least, spiritual wellness. All these things come together and we refer to the wellness. In this wellness discussion, we also need to understand what is the relevance today. We are all here, women, trying to handhold each other, trying to help each other, both personally and professionally. From time immemorial, all of us are used to hearing, you're a girl, you need to adjust. You're a sister, you're a mother, you're the wife, you're the daughter, you're the daughter-in-law. It's always the women who need to adjust. So what happens to the emotional wellness of the woman? Yes, always expected to do the maximum. But then times have changed as girls and women have moved from inside of the house to the outside world, from the personal to the professional world. Obviously, there is much more to handle for a woman. And especially if she is going to have her own business, start her own business, yes, startup, or she's a leader. So we must look at the Sanskrit sloka that I am reminded of. Karyeshu dasi, karaneshu mantri, bhojyeshu mata, shayaneshu rambha. It goes on like that. Shatkarma yukti sadharma patni. So a dharma patni in our scriptures, or an ideal woman and a wife, is supposed to have all the qualities of the greatest mother who can feed well, the greatest minister, Karanyeshu Mantri, who can manage the household finances and activities and everything else. So a lot of expectations. With all these things, I thought it is extremely important for us to look at emotional wellness as we look at the other wellnesses as well. Because there are 5 distinct areas from children's age. I mean, since the childhood, we have heard everybody asking us, what is your IQ? What is your child's IQ? Is it not familiar to you? Yes. But that is a time of the past. The buzzing word today is EQ, emotional wellness. So in physical fitness, in wellness first, let us look at the physical fitness, the mental wellness, financial wellness. These are the most important things. And of course, academic wellness and the wellness within our relationship in the society. As we all know, man, I would like to say woman, is a social animal. Yes. So the most important part for us as we step out into the wonderful workplace world, we are focusing on the emotional wellness. Yes. It's just not enough to be physically fit. It is not enough to be mentally fit. It is very, very important to be emotionally healthy. So just give me a minute to have a sip of water. Let us first look at the emotional wellness. How are we connected with emotional wellness today? We are talking about business EQ, business emotional quotient. So, and again, going back to the age of the children, as women, we all pass through milestones. Milestones of puberty, milestone of adolescence in puberty, and womanhood. The young adulthood, womanhood. with all these hormonal changes, with so many expectations. And the workplace, again, is a challenging place for us. How do we manage all these things in today's world? That was my concern. Of course, I have to tell you that I have personally gone through several ups and downs. And these learnings that I'm going to share with you today is all from my own experience. Yes, I have been a teacher first. And you know very well that as a teacher, you're a mother first. The little child leaves home and comes to you. So obviously, you will have to play the mother, and you will have to play the sister and the aunt and everybody else. But wait a minute, before all this details and going into so many challenges and making it a little scary for you, I would like to ask you a question. Did you ever think that emotional wellness was important? Were you aware of it before? Were you mindful of it before? So take a moment. Let's make this session a little interactive. And I'm sure Abhirami, Rajalakshmi, you would be helping me with the chat box. So please,
Definitely.
yeah, please open your chat box and type whether you believe that wellness matters. The first interaction today will be, do you believe wellness matters in the workplace? Remember, wellness, yes, matters for all of us, but in the workplace, does it have any relevance? Type an S or a no. Over to you for a few seconds. Quickly think about it, whether wellness matters to us in the workplace.
It's a wonderful response in the chat box. People are saying yes, absolutely yes, 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 yes. So that's the response that we are getting in the chat box.
Thank you so much, Raji. And about, say, 20 years back, I did not get such a response. When I started my training journey, people were wondering, emotions are supposed to be left behind at home when you step out. Yeah? And even at home, not much of importance is given to the woman's wellness, be it health or emotional health or whatever it is. And financial health, no way. Women were supposed to take care of the home. And if possible, yes, work also. But the roles were not demarcated. There was always overlapping and there was a lot of confusion. And each and every time, it was the girl or the woman that had to take all the brunt. Yeah. But somewhere in the late 90s, we could see that psychologists and health specialists and educators and neuroscientists all found out that there is this little thing that is doing all the mischief. And that is nothing other than the emotional quotient, the emotional intelligence. And as we all know, much before that, in the 80s, I think, Howard Gardner, yeah, the multiple intelligence specialist, he had already realized that IQ is not the only intelligence that will matter. It is going to be much more than that. And that is how this multiple intelligences was discovered. So somewhere along the way, people realized, and our psychologists and neurologists and educationists said, stop evaluating and assessing children's and adults' intelligence. Intelligence is multiple. It is multifold. It is not one thing like scoring centum in maths or getting 95 plus in physics, chemistry, or biology. That was a turning point, and that was a game changer altogether. So when I just taking you down my memory lane, I would also like to tell you that earlier wellness was only pertaining to physical fitness and health. And it was social stigma to talk about, you know how it is, depression, anxiety, stress, that we keep hearing so much today. Sometimes I pause and wonder, is it right to talk so much about all these things? Just believe me or trust me, I don't want to ignore it. But are we focusing more on that? On stress, anxiety, and depression and boredom? Yes, they're all there. Challenges. But can we not use some words, positive words that are going to be churned out of these negative situations?
True that.
That is how I came across this emotional intelligence. And as we have linguistic intelligence, okay, that is the language intelligence, the number intelligence, which is the mathematical, and then logical and reasoning. And then it went on, and natural, that is the science, intelligence, the environment around us. And more importantly, interpersonal skills and intrapersonal skills are important, as we all know, in the workplace. Soft skills. I was a soft skills trainer, and I was wondering about this intrapersonal and interpersonal. How is it so important? And during my journey, I also realized when I started working with HR people and with trainers and coaches, I understood more and more of it. So the journey of emotional coaching itself, from wellness to intrapersonal and interpersonal intelligence, we move on to emotional intelligence. So what is emotional intelligence? The biggest question. And again, from the teacher trainer, and to the teaching and training and development journey across the way, I have realized that soft skills are very, very important, because time and again women are in the outside world, and even at home, why should they suffer anymore? So much of development has taken place scientifically, technologically, and medically. Is it not time for us to think and focus when women are being, highlighted, and when they are praised for their patience, for their multitasking abilities? It actually became even more difficult for the women to handle, because the expectations were more. And that is how, as a trainer, I moved on to my coaching journey. I said it's equally important for women to focus on themselves as much as they focus on their families and their workplace. I have been a teacher, a trainer, a coach, and a woman at heart in all these places. But somewhere along the way, I realized that emotions are very, very important, as much as the women are important. And the men do agree, but they're so preoccupied with themselves that they need to be reminded. They're good people. Let's give it to them. They're nice people. They care for us. But it's we who have to stand for ourselves. So EQ is all about us, the interpersonal and the intrapersonal, the personal and the professional. Okay? And as we move...
I have a question here in the chat box. How do women or women entrepreneurs desperately, we need to prioritize our wellness, but how do we do that with the stress, and we are trying to balance with the work and everything? So how do you think we need to prioritize? Can you just focus on the prioritization of wellness?
Absolutely. They have asked the right question, because with EQ, the emotional wellness, again, this is an interactive session. So we need to ask more questions so that we give more answers and we help people to come up with solutions. But at the same time, it is equally important to understand what is EQ first. Emotional intelligence or emotional quotient is nothing but it has 5 dimensions. The 5 dimensions are self-awareness, yeah, it's self-management, self-performance, and then it is social awareness and people management. So here, emotional, so it is very important not just to know about it, but awareness leads to action, and action leads to application, and application leads to success. So here, as entrepreneurs or business people, it is IQ and EQ. When I say so much about the importance of emotional intelligence, it doesn't mean that IQ is not relevant. Yeah, it is the intellectual part of the brain which combines with the heart. It's the head and the heart combination that is going to be successful. But having lived now in the 2020s, we have come, yeah, after my long journey, you know. So it's very easy for people to understand and connect with emotional intelligence. But then how is it going to help us, and how are we going to deal with it? In this context, first be aware of your emotions. So what is emotion in the first place? We all know as Indians, we have a rich legacy in Navarasas. Yeah, the anger,
Emotion.
the surprise, yeah, the emotions, the humor, yes, and then the challenge, the disgust. All these things we have gone through with the same person, maybe with the same team, maybe, you know, but in different amounts and different situations. So coming back to this handling the emotional quotient, we will divide it into intrapersonal and interpersonal. Interpersonal is something that happens within our community, to the people. Intrapersonal is something, the inner peak. Let's have an inner peak within us. And the interpersonal skills is with people, whether they are at home or the workplace or just in the society. Okay, so that is where when we look at emotions and the behavior at the workplace, that is our focus today. So the awareness is very much there that we need to make use of the information that is there. What do emotions do to us? We become angry, we scream at people, and we hold our hands, just like the couple that featured in our little story in the beginning. Yeah, you need to have time for communication. You need to pause, understand your spouse or your manager or your leader for a moment before going into the action. So it is this split second, the journey between the emotion and the action, that actually matters. So how do we grow that emotional intelligence? Yeah, the intelligence is always the ability to find out tips and tools to do something right, to figure out what the problem is. Yeah. So we need to, in the 2020, I feel we need to have emotional gyms, just like we have physical gyms. Yeah. The
Brain gym. Yeah.
Like the brain gym, this is the heart gym. So that is where we see the wellness centers springing up. Yeah. And we have yoga, we have meditation. Once again, our rich culture, once it combines with the science, the Western science and the Eastern wisdom, when they merge together, it is going to be a beautiful place of interconnection. And the peak within us is the way forward. Our ability to look at our emotions. So if I have answered to some extent, there are some more questions in the chat box. So there are tips and tools, of course, and that is where training comes in. That is where coaching comes in. That I am a transformation coach. So each one's emotion is different. Each one's situation is different. Each one's ability to handle is very, very different. Just like someone gets 60 marks in mathematics, someone else gets 80 and someone else gets 100 or 100. It's the same with emotional intelligence as well. Here you may ask me a question, but let us wait for the audience question and see if someone has asked the same question. Otherwise, I can ask and answer.
Yes. We have a question. How do we self-assess our emotional well-being? Can you give us some tips to self-assess? So that, as you said, it's first assessment, then application, awareness, assessment, application. So can you just help us in self-assessing our emotional well-being?
Yes. When you actually assess yourself before assessing others, you need to understand the location of yours and the others as well. Since we have spoken about the self-awareness and the social awareness as the in the 5 important dimensions, we are looking at the personal angle, the intrapersonal, and the society or the workplace in general, where we look at the interpersonal skills. So we need to constantly pause. When I told you that the first tip that I would be giving is very, very simple. Don't expect miracles, okay? Because it will not happen overnight. It may sound very easy. You may think, yes, of course, I know this. Yeah, but then the problem is knowing is awareness and doing is action, right? And that in-between space is the application. How do you apply the knowledge to the action? What do you know that, how do you know what is appropriate here? Many times we know that we are losing our temper. Many times we feel somebody is irritating us, okay? And here we have to understand in the workplace, like in the family, we have parents, we have in-laws, we have children, we have the husband and the wife and, you know, everybody there. It's very important to understand that EQ plays a very important role as a team building bonding. Yeah, as teams, we need to bond because the success of a company or a startup or a business depends on the success of its teams, of its leaders, of its individuals who work in the company. So here I might sound a little repetitive, but remember that I'm stressing on the importance of being aware of the individual and the team and the workplace or the company or the startup. There are 3 different things. But when you look at the society or the workplace, it's made of people. Yes? You come to teams. Again, it's made of people. You come to an individual. We are all individuals and we are all people. So it is people-centric. Okay? You have to use storytelling here. Yes, that is my USP. Yes, there are many people who can talk about emotional quotients or emotional intelligence and the tips and tools, how they can handle. But remember that stories are the best way. These are the tips that you will be learning very soon. But before that, the connect has to happen. Yeah, the connection between the person, the team. So it is the behavior of individual alone, collectively. Yeah, an individual, how he or she behaves alone as an individual. In the teams, how do they behave and perform in the workplace? And all these little groups, how do they become the company or the startup or the society? And what are the dynamics here? Okay, so there, if you understand these small tips, as I said, we will start with awareness. Yes, we know that emotional intelligence is important. We know we need to be not angry. We should be very patient. We need to take care of ourselves because all these days we keep hearing about the me time. Yes?
Yes, the me time. Yeah.
Yes, free time. Go shopping. Buy the best things that you want. And self-care. These are all there. Go to a parlor. Relax. Get yourself a good massage. It is important, the physical thing. All that others can help you. You go for yoga. The mind, body, and the intellect. They merge together, and it is the, you know that is where emotional intelligence can be optimized by practicing that. But who will do it for you? A
Ourselves.
coach or a trainer or somebody can help you, but it is you who is going to do it. There are, again, answering that assessment question. How do we assess how much is our EQ and how much does it have to raise? Yeah. So there, when you look at, there are so many certifications, there are assessments, you can just answer. Even on internet you go, they can, ask you to answer some questions, but they are not going to help you grow your emotional intelligence, especially in the workplace. Because workplace is a very, very dynamic space. There needs to be a connect, there needs to be a bond. If people are alone taking care of each one's, their own emotions, their own behaviors, their own lifestyles, there is no coherence. And storytelling comes here because stories are the ones which help us make sense of the world we live in. Yes? The past, present, and the future. So, while maintaining journals, pausing and seeing when are the moments you're getting very angry and what is the reason behind it. Have I been very hungry? Simplest question. Or did I have a fight back home or on the way in the bus or somewhere on the road? Is it the actual reason that I have been responding to? Is it the actual situation? Are they well connected? Is it a cause and action and a cause and effect happening there? So when you look at our life or the situation in the form of stories, they ease out the entangled emotions, which are playing havoc with our head and our heart. It's so much easier with stories because when whatever I was, as a girl, as a woman, as a mother, as an aunt, as a daughter-in-law, everywhere it was extremely difficult for me. But then somewhere along the way, I realized there was a solution for me each time, and the miracle was nothing but the power of stories. We have to find out, what's your story? Yeah, that is, what was your past?
Analyzing yourself in the form of stories. I think everyone can relate to that. I think everybody can relate to that. Yeah, absolutely.
And people think that stories are only for children. Yeah, they are for children, to nurture them, to nourish them, and make them strong emotionally, physically, intellectually, good human beings. But then stories connect at all the ages. They become the personal narratives of an individual. It becomes the narrative of the team, of the leader, and the people whom he leads or whom she leads. It is the story of the startup that we have, dreamt of. It might be the story of the business. How does the connect happen? How do you think Steve Jobs was such a big hit? Because he told his story, his dream, as our story, as our, the story of the company Apple. Yes. And how did you think that Barack Obama became the greatest president ever? How could he connect and say, yes, we can? Because he could connect his personal experiences with the experiences of the people around him, whether at the workplace or the environment or the society. So stories help us because our lives are nothing but stories. Stories in the past, stories in the present, and stories in the future. If you reimagine your story, if you restructure your story, if you rewrite your story, whether your personal story, whether it's the story of your startup, whether it's the story of your charity or NGO, or the community that you live in.
I really like the terminology when you said rewrite your own story. That's something fabulous. I would really like to appreciate you on that. It's rewriting your own story. That's fabulous.
And this is what I do, Raji, where I help people to look at themselves. Once you take the self and put it out, how can you do it when the emotions are, holding you back, pulling you, and you feel, oh my God, they have done this to me, and she said this, and he said this, and I did that day. Oh my God, why did I do it? If we are going to, live in self-pity, then we are preoccupied with ourselves. So once we write as a story, there are characters. Here comes the story arc. I will be moving randomly as a storyteller into flashback, into the future. My narrative is not like a PPT, a PowerPoint presentation or a lecture. It is through my journey and through the lived experiences of mine and the people who I have trained or coached or mentored, because the focus today more and more is on the personal narratives.
We have sorry to interrupt that. We have a small question from the chat. Usha is requesting for one more short story. If you could, take us through one more story, that would be great.
Oh, yes. And how much time do I have? There are lots of
we have, the session ends at 6 p.m. So we have another 15 minutes left for the overall session.
So Usha, please bear with us. I will be, closing it with a story. And that is my style as a storyteller. I begin with a story and I end with story, because story connects us all. Yeah?
Lavanya,
Yes, please.
Yeah, sure. We have gained a lot from the session. I'm sure you'll be closing with the story. But just a few things.
Yes.
A particular question, actually.
Yeah, please.
You talked about mental health, right?
Yeah.
And you talked about emotional quotient related to mental health, right?
Yeah.
Now, when I work more and more with the present generation,
Yeah.
they have so much, what do you call it? Some kind of a definition towards that. I'm not saying it is right or wrong, I'm sure that, our parents were also depressed at some point, but we never labeled it,
Yes.
Yes, we never labeled it. It was never called something, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So this is something that, has been playing in my mind for a long time. As a psychologist, as a person who would like to, counsel people, how would you deal with something like that? Because our earlier generation also has undergone so much, but we never labeled it or called it a name or called it or named it something. They just dealt with it. Maybe it was hard. Yeah, they could not speak to somebody. It is all fine. But today it has become something which I don't want to say, either way. You understand what I'm saying, right? So, yeah. So that is what I want to know. Yeah.
Yeah. So the final question that you are asking me, if because I want the answer to be pinpoint. So I do understand when you said it's let's talk about depression, and not just depression out of situations, out of health matters. Yes. And it is an honor for me to see Nirja Malik, who has been counseling cancer survivors. I know her personally. She has done it to my aunt as well. And I know about the work that she has done. These are the people, and it's very important for us not to label. But one good thing I have observed, that people are okay with mental wellness, going to psychologists or to psychiatrists. It's a good sign, because earlier it was only the physical health that mattered. Parents or children or whoever, even at the workplace, people did not take into consideration about the importance of emotional health. So now more and more people are coming, and we need to look at what could be the triggers for this emotional upheavals and how can we handle it.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think it is very important for us to recognize that these upheavals are there, you know, and to seek help is not a bad thing.
Oh, not at all.
But
Not
at the same time, to seek comfort in them, in these things, if we are able to rise above it, you know, that is what we should aim for.
yes, and thank you very much.
Something,
Thank
yeah,
you
we
very much
always,
for leading this question to the next most important point I wanted to tell you.
yes, Lavanya.
My passion or my experience again was storytelling, using storytelling as an expressive arts therapy, to write down your story or to listen to others' story. There may be people who are shy, and storytelling doesn't mean only performance storytelling. They are lived experiences, yes, and they are shared stories. So there is a commonality, people are able to connect, and now more and more such situations are growing, and I feel every workplace needs to have a place, a studio kind of thing, or just like people go for a smoke or a coffee or something like that. I think there needs to be a wellness place, a story where people can just go, sing a song maybe, or doodle a bit, or say some dialogues, or maybe scream on top of their voice.
Right.
Because stories allow us with all these crazy things that we do. Yes, and it is such a let out for our emotions. I can myself feel when I did that through the form of a story, through the form of a character, because storytelling has this magical power of aligning the storyteller, the listener, and the character. They all merge somewhere along the way. That is why I say look at ourselves as a story. And it helps parents and bosses and leaders and women leaders and entrepreneurs to look at their own stories and the others' lives as well as a story, because that is, stories help us to have that little bit of moment, that few seconds before we act.
Absolutely.
From awareness to action. And when I was small, I was told, whenever, sorry to cut you short, Raji, just one small memory I have in a novel, in a story I read, that the little boy was told by his mother to count 10 before, whenever he gets angry, 1, 2, 3, 4. This 10, counting 10 would give that mind space for you to go from that impulsive emotion to action. Yes, Raji, I'm sorry to interrupt. You were saying something?
No, no. In the olden days, when I was a child, my mother always used to say, count to 20 sheep, going over the fence to fall asleep. Or she would say, just say Ram, 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 Ram. We were simple. We were simple. We believed our moms. Today's
Exactly.
today's kids say, why should I say Ram? Why can't I say something else?
Why should I count only 20 sheep? Why can't I do 40?
Exactly. Exactly.
Why should I count only 20 sheep? Sheep only, not cats or dogs or lions. Yes, you can do all that. But the crux of the whole thing is take that little space and time between the awareness, because people are becoming smarter, more and more intelligent, and more assertive and aggressive. So you need to also find out whether you are assertive or aggressive.
No, but ma'am, what I find is, see, we are all different generations, right? You are, you are a different generation, maybe. I don't know. But it's like the present generation, because I work with a lot of kids,
Yeah.
and I think Abhirami also works with a lot of kids. So the one thing that comes across very strongly, in them is
Yeah.
we don't want to have anything with divisiveness. We don't want to
Oh,
have
sorry.
we don't want to have division. You know,
Division.
yeah, we don't want to have division. Even if
Oh,
religion is divisive, we don't want to have it, because
yeah,
we feel that, we are working for a common cause,
yeah,
and we are, you know, all of us are citizens of this planet,
yeah,
right? And we want to go to that level, right? So we don't want division. This
yeah.
is very clear. My daughter says this every time. I'm having a very open talk here. My daughter says this every time. I
Yeah.
don't want to have any division. You know,
That's, I fully,
religion is divisive. She
yes,
tells me that. Religion is divisive. What have we achieved? What have we achieved?
yeah.
Out of all these years of, whatever we have achieved. We don't want divisiveness, right?
Yeah, Raji, that is where again stories and storytelling come into place because stories are inclusive. You know, they connect people through hearts, not through religion, not through caste. Whether
Exactly.
it was Ambedkar who had, who was a Dalit who fought for the nation, or whether it was Mahatma Gandhi who was a bunny, who was a businessman, who was, caste, creed. Today's world is so full. I was about to say that Mahatma's story itself and Ambedkar's story itself, and that is where stories show us the perspectives. Dr. Muthulakshmi Reddy, what she did for, the women people, the people of her own feminine community. So stories tell us, it brings the commonality.
Absolutely.
Rightly said. We have to, again, a small cue from whatever you have told, Raji. Thanks for this time is a very difficult thing. You know, you have so much to say, you have so much to share, but it
Yeah,
plays
that's
a
fine.
spoiled
That's fine.
role.
Yeah.
The children today are very, very smart and they're very inclusive and their hearts are so full of good.
Absolutely. They are so inclusive.
They're
That is
so
the right
inclusive.
word.
They
Yeah.
are gender conscious. They are very, very concentrated, very mindful of fairness. You know, that is again a wonderful thing that you're looking at the workplace. In the personal
Absolutely.
space where people, the youth are not, ashamed to talk about their issues and they help each other. You see, you look at the internet, the social media, you look at the help groups that handhold each other. And these storytelling sessions work like that. And the beauty is, Raji, we have in the storytelling sessions people of different age groups. And stories give us different perspectives that is very important,
Ma'am,
both for us as adults.
share something with you. My mother is a big storyteller. You
See,
know, we lost,
absolutely.
we
See,
lost our father, my father,
oh,
about 13 years ago.
mhm.
And she's been a social service person. She's been always, I'm just sharing a story, a personal story. She, within a week of my father passing away, my father passed away from cancer, but within a week of my father passing away, she went into storytelling for cancer kids,
Oh,
kids who would not, who have to undergo chemo, who don't have a childhood. See,
oh,
many of us survive our life because of our positive experience in childhood.
absolutely. And she has done it that time because I had also done it at the Adyar Cancer Hospital.
See,
Story where the children come for chemotherapy. The
right.
time between, you need to engage them with happy stories. And another thing, Raji, stories play a very important role because when you have a problem, when you have an illness or you have a challenge, you have some past incident that has been haunting you. Stories help you to talk in third person. You
Absolutely.
don't have to reveal your identity. You can talk it out, and the others, oh, yes, I'm not alone in this world. There is somebody who's gone through this and come out successful.
Right.
Or at least there is one more person like me, and they get strength. And stories are very important, not only in workplace, but in colleges, Raji, because that is the via media. When children become adults, young adults, before moving on to the corporates or the industry, and they have been worried only about the IQ. Their emotional intelligence has gone for a toss. It has just gone so deep underneath that you need to pull it out. and they're away from homes. They stay in hostels. Yes, they stay in some PGs while they are working in companies or wherever it is. They need people to talk. They need people to talk, to share their ideas and get inputs and perspectives.
Yeah, we need people to talk to, people who can understand,
Yes. And
Nirja ji, he's here, who is a great counselor. So Nirja, do you have anything to say to us? Yeah.
yeah, I recognized her presence some time back. It is such an honor for me to have her here. When I was telling a story on the beach road sometime last year, I met her there. Thank you so much for being here. It means a lot to me. Please, you have done a humongous.
Lavanya, can I say something here? Lavanya, your session was fantastic.
Oh my.
I loved every word that you said. And what was, there are 2 points I want to make here. One, you're right, because all my experiences have been put down in a book.
Yes.
And whether one person identifies with 30 of those or 1 point, because of the identification, they can verbalize, ventilate, identify. 2, I love that point you said when we were told to count sheep or numbers. I do something fantastic. I do the Sudoku.
Oh.
So whatever my mood is, I have figured out if I just separate myself, do the Sudoku, I'm good to go because I've changed the perception from the feelings that were there to beyond. Thank you so much for giving me the time to participate.
Thank you, Nirja.
It is fantastic what you have said.
Thank you.
Writing each one's experience helps the others, sharing the stories.
Yes.
And this is where I said, when you remove yourself from yourself and put yourself outside and look at it as a character, yes, and go through the narrative arc or the story arc, just like a story or a novel, you are able to understand yourself better.
Yes.
You are able to look at yourself dispassionately. You're able to look at people around you and your team members and your leaders and your company with more empathy.
Yes, that is so important.
Yes.
And so important because we need to place ourselves in another person's shoe to understand, what we are going through, what the other person is going through. Empathy, I completely agree with you, Lavanya ma'am. It is completely so important because that keeps us grounded, it keeps us connected, and it really makes a huge difference to the world. So can we conclude here because we're almost at 6.
Yes.
We have a last question, Rajshri, just a last question for today.
Ma'am, small question for you. A small question. Ma'am, reading stories helps ourselves.
Sorry?
Reading stories helps ourselves.
Yes, certainly. As I said.
Does it help ourselves, ma'am?
Yes, it helps ourselves very much because stories are like windows. When you open the window, you can see the outside. And stories help you to travel across.
Yeah, life of the others actually.
Without a ticket, without a passport, without the strain of a journey. And especially in the social distancing times, in this pandemic, stories are very, very important. And thanks for reminding me because I had done a project called Story Quilt Project, sharing your stories and remembering tales from your own life, your own childhood or your mythology and getting the comfort just like you get comfort from the quilt, the old quilts that are soft and close to our hearts. That was my project. And I have, with all this gray hair, I have so much to talk about. Thank you so much for giving this opportunity. But a successful life, whether you are an executive, a leader, or a precious person, I feel it's the beautiful, mindful combination of IQ, EQ, the SQ, that is the social quotient, the spiritual quotient, and the PQ, the positive psychology, which is very, very important in today's world because depression takes you with all those negative thoughts into deep down. Positive psychology pulls you out, and positive does not mean always the opposite of negative. It is positive means it is the awareness to realize what is negative and the ability to transform it to achieve or to solve your problems. So the IQ, EQ, SQ, and PQ, and more importantly, the NQ, narrative intelligence or the narrative quotient, that is the combination, the winning combination of today's topic. And so if I have time for a story, I would like to. Otherwise, over to you, Raji, for this session.
There are two Rajis here.
Yeah, Honorable Raji, from her to President Raji.
Yeah, no, I'm oftenly called Raj, not Raji, but that's okay. It's a wonderful evening today where we had a wonderful session, lot of positivity. And regarding mental health and depression, Lavanya, I would like to connect with you on a different plane regarding here, because there's so much dealing with on a day-to-day basis with youngsters, you know, and I hear so many the things that I could relate to, they can't, you know, and they are saying some things which are not relatable to me. So at some point, you know, I want to be able to bridge that gap, right? So I would like to take that with you separately. But other than that, it was a wonderful session.
Rajalakshmi wanted to ask a question which came in the chat box. Just that.
Tell another story, ma'am. Yeah, no, nice.
Yeah, Raji.
Yeah, I will go ahead. This will be the last question for today's session. So, Anila is asking here, could you please advise on few self-help emotional exercise we can do on daily basis? That is the question.
Okay, so as I told you, on an everyday basis, you all know I'm an international yoga trainer as well, but we all know about yoga, right? Okay, yoga, we know we have these breathing exercises, count so much, take deep breath, count all these things. But apart from that, believe me, kindly maintain a journal for yourself and for the others as well. Don't look at others as the villains. At the same time, it's more important not to look at yourself also as a villain. Equally important is not to look at yourself as a hero or the heroine and others as no. Yeah, please, this small exercise, I just would love to meet all of you once again, because I'm so passionate about stories and passionate about emotional health and passionate about entrepreneurs and everything on this planet. So just try this small tip that I'm going to give you today as a storyteller. Yes, and I want this tip to be something other than what you have heard before. And of course, with Nirja ji here, who has written a book, I'm not the right person, but as a person who's working with stories constantly, I just have this formula where you have the 7 C's for a story or a narrative arc. Kindly, you don't have to do it overnight, and don't do it with an intention to become an author, because your focus would change and you would go in a totally different direction. Remember your emotions, and since you said every day, kindly go through this journal where you will write down with a brainstorming session with the story arc. I will tell you how it goes. Every story has a context. It is placed in a physical, geographical, emotional, and a climatic situation. Then there are characters, the next C. Who are the characters? Yes. And then the next one will be the sequencing. Though it is an S, you focus on the C in the spellings and on the course of the story. What happens every day? Something has not happened that day. Something has happened differently that day. What is it? That is the conflict in the story. That is the conflict in your heart, in your mind, and in your home and in your workplace. Yes? So take time to note down each one brainstorm each day, just write down the single words. Don't go into a narrative pattern and start writing a book immediately, but journal. And don't forget to note down the emotions, concentrate on the emotions. Don't just say awesome and these two words, I'm sorry, these days are really confusing. What does awesome mean? There are about at least 10 expressions, shades of meanings, right from good to best, with so many shades in between. Kindly look at the vocabulary. Give a proper vocabulary to your emotion and grades of emotion, the intensity of the emotion, and the right words for others' behavior. She hates me. No, there is so much between liking and hating. They are two extremes. So realize that there are, like a scale, there are these measures, and try to pinpoint where these things go. The emotion, the reaction, yes, and what needs to have done. Because once we cool down, we all know what needs to be done. We are such sweethearts, believe me. We are all very, very good. But it is that emotion which plays the devil's advocate and messes up with our lives. So I feel, ma'am, whoever asked that wonderful question, please maintain a journal. That is the same thing, almost similar to the diary writing. So many great people, how are we able to know about them? Because they maintain diaries. But there, of course, the focus was on the sequence of events. Sorry for stopping in between with the conflict. From the conflict, you move on to the course of, that is, you plan and see what is the course of action to be done, which takes you to the climax. Like in movies and novels, you sit at the edge of the chair, the nail-biting finish, yes? Because the obstacle is even bigger. There is a car chase, there is a big showdown, all these emotional upheavals happen there. So this critical thinking of analyzing, rationalizing, all these things we are capable of with all our experience and our knowledge. But finally, when it comes to application, just like in corporates and startups, remember it is the creative thinking. It is that aha moment that you achieve which takes you to the resolution or the conclusion of the story, of the situation. So this narrative arc or the story arc that takes you through the journey would help you if you focus on more on the emotions than the story sequence. Focus on the emotions, write down the pinpoint, the grade and the shades of meanings. Use a lot of description, like in stories and novels, for your emotions, for people, for things around you. And when you look at these things at the people, what you see at the people, what their accessories are, what their characteristics are, what their inner beings are, what the situations do to them with their emotions. So these stories and character arc again, I mean, that calls for a different session altogether. So with this,
thank you so much, Lavanya. Thank you so much. And I'm sure we have learned a lot from this discussion, from awareness, application to action. I am sure for the viewers, it is going to be of great help. Over to Rajshri and Abhinami from here. Thank you.
No, I would just like to thank Lavanya, for this wonderfully informative session, which is a huge connect, with the souls, because that is so important today. It is not just about success or money, we also have so many different dimensions in life. You have to be successful in life, and that takes different dimensions, So I'm so happy that she's here. She's talking to us. Thank you, Lavanya. Wonderful experience. And Abhi, over to you.
Thank you so much, Lavanya, for being here. Once again, on your special day, taking time for us and then coming over is a great honor. Happy birthday to you once again. And to all the participants over here, we have a special group of entrepreneurs wherein we mentor. So I'll just share the Google Forms link. Kindly fill in that link, and then you can just we will just call you, and we will have a separate chat session, and then we can start our mentoring over there. So you can just see that Google form over there in the chat session, and you can fill that, and we'll be able to do a lot of more sessions with you all.
Thank you so much, Abhirami, and Raj and Raji. Thank you so much. And thanks, Nirja ma'am, for giving your wonderful opinion. I would like whoever is told, I will not share the story, but I'm leaving the name which I wanted to share, the rainbow fish. It's a wonderful story about sharing and caring. So just go back, become a child, pamper the child within you, and read that book today before you go to sleep. Read it to your children, read it to your whoever is around with you. Yeah? And thanks for making my story special today on this special occasion. Yes? Thank you. Wonderful times, wonderful faces. And it is destiny, I feel. And I feel that the purpose God has given me once again, because I have been a jack of all trades and master of none. So with this, I have a particular direction with more and to focus my health, wealth, whatever little I have, the knowledge or the experience and money, towards honing the skills of the youngsters. I would like the elders to remember that the youngsters are not some inexperienced, and the children of today, the youngsters of today, let's not talk like that. At the same time, the youngsters, please respect our gray hair, and we are also trying to become modern, and yes, and
ma'am, I would like to say something here.
Yeah.
It's not that they are disrespectful. They have a higher spiritual energy. We have something which is taking us into the future. They don't see, all these divisions. They see something beyond that. And I think as individuals in our generation, we have to respect that and kind of love it. Maybe there may be social constraints, there may be practical constraints, there may be guidance required. It is how we manage.
Yeah.
It is how we manage.
In fact, that is how, I connect very well with the entrepreneurship, mentorship, and other things for the entrepreneurship that you are, you have started off, because there's a wonderful mix of the young and the old, the experienced and somewhere in between. It's all the collective stories, it's a collective energy that is going to take the world forward.
Yes.
Thank you so much once again.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for the session. Wonderfully enlightening session. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks.